Good afternoon, guys. Thank you for being here. We appreciate such a great turnout. It's nice to see everybody. I see faces I know and faces that I don't. I'd like to see a show of hands for those that have a bracket that still looks good. No one? Yeah, you would be a millionaire if that were the case. My name is Lee Lynch, and I'm your DDA Vice Chair. I'm also a fellow business owner in the business district. As a business owner, I really appreciate you guys showing up today. I know giving up any of your busy day is hard to do. You've got a lot going on. Additionally, I know how much you're juggling. You're serving customers, running the day-to-day, and trying to grow at the same time. I personally believe that's part of what makes this community so special. We've chosen to be here. Avondale isn't just where we work. It's where we leave our blood, sweat, and tears, and I know you guys know what I'm saying. It's where we invest our time, our energy, and our relationships. And in a city this size, I think it certainly matters. This event is really about you guys and me. Just kidding. The DDA is here to support our business community, and everything we are working on is designed with you guys in mind. Last year, we rolled out micro grants. This year, we've added an emergency loan fund to help local businesses, and this event is yet another piece of that. We're hoping to give you guys tools and resources that we can use. One of our biggest challenges is marketing, figuring out how to stand out, how to reach the right people, and make the most of our time and resources, and that's exactly why we're here today. We brought together some marketing experts to share practical ideas, real-world insight, and things you can actually use in your business. Because in a place like Avondale Estates, it's personal. The relationships drive what we do, and being hands-on is super important. Today's a chance to learn a little bit, hopefully a couple of nuggets you get to take with you with marketing that you can use in your business. Thanks for being here. Thanks for supporting each other. And always thank you for investing in this community.
Lee loves public speaking so much. And she is so excited that she's going to take my spot at the State of the City tomorrow night. Between the construction, the weather, and the water problems, who is glad that it's not January or February anymore? It feels good to be spring. So glad you're here. We've got great, I think, relevant speakers for you. From the standpoint of the strategic importance of a brand and how to communicate it, to how you actually implement strategies. We've got a panel that brings expertise from working within small communities and plugging into agencies throughout the state that are available to help you, and expertise on how to place make, to how to implement social media strategies, develop and implement social media strategies. So I think it's going to be a great panel. I think we've got a great keynote. His name is Tim Halloran. I'm going to turn it over to him in just a second. I got to know Tim during the years I worked at Georgia Tech. He was year in and year out the undergrad as well as the graduate students' most revered, I think, leader and speaker and professor. He is a practitioner as well as an academic. So he's got years of experience at places like Coca-Cola, building and launching products. So I think he's got a practical take on brand strategy. Please join me in welcoming Tim Halloran. Hey, I think I'm supposed to use this microphone. So, can y'all hear me? Oops.
Is that, you know what, maybe I don't even need to use it. Can y'all hear me okay? Awesome, okay, good. So kind of make sure I'm good to go. It's great to be here. Whoops, wrong way. So Dave took me around town, and I hadn't been in Avondale in a few years. And the last time I remember, it was a big highway that was just kind of going through, and you could kind of see, there's some interesting buildings there, but man, it has really changed. So you guys it's really exciting to see what y'all are doing here. So I'm going to talk to y'all today about how you build your small business brand, okay? So we're going to use, and I'll give you my background here real quick, but before I moved into academia, I spent 11 years at the Coca-Cola Company, all right? So you may ask, you're working on a number of different brands, Powerade, Diet Coke, Dasani. The last thing I did was Gold Peak Tea and launching that. So, and it was really interesting because I'm going to talk to you and give you today some lessons that big companies use that you can actually apply to your own small business. And you say, well, wait a second, how do I apply what a Coca-Cola does to what I'm going to do? But today we're going to talk about that and how you make that transition. As Dave said, I'm a principal teaching professor of marketing at Georgia Tech. I've been at Tech now for 11 years as well, after Coke. And so I have a couple books out. Romancing the Brand is what we're going to be kind of talking a little bit about today. I've done a lot of consulting too. So what I try to do is I try to stay one foot in the academic world and one foot in the real world or the practitioner kind of world. Just my academic background, I got my doctorate from the University of Florida. So this is kind of weird. I got my doctorate from the University of Florida, my master's degree from the University of Georgia, and I teach at Georgia Tech. So every Saturday somebody should win, right? Hopefully. And I live in Brookhaven, so not too far from here as well. So our goal today is really, and I pulled some of these brand logos off the web of some of you guys, right? My goal is really to help you all define today what your small business brand is and how we can make it come to life, okay? So we're gonna, my focus is really gonna be on how you figure out what you wanna be, and conversely, what you're not gonna be. And then the panel session will talk a little bit more about how you make that come to life, okay? So think of mine as more the strategy piece, and theirs is going to be kind of more the implementation piece of this, all right? So quick thing, right? I want you to quickly think about this. Take a minute to think about a brand that has a positive meaning for you. Maybe be one from your childhood, maybe one you just experienced last week, but something that's positive. And then I want you to think about one that you had a negative experience with, or you have a bad taste in your mouth. And then I want you to think about why that is, okay? So let's take 30 seconds, talk with someone at your table and just tell them what that is, and then we'll bring it back, okay? Go. All right, I'm going to keep this going just because we got a lot to cover. So let's bring it back here and tell me, someone who wants to volunteer, what's a brand that means something really positive to you? Sorry? Bombas. Okay, how come? All right, they do something to benefit others when you buy a sock. Good one. All right, who else? GoPro. Okay, how come?
It invokes the sense of adventure.
Okay.
And it sells as GoPro, so it pushes you beyond your limits.
So it kind of gives you a feeling, right? Pushing you beyond your limits. Good, I love that one. Any others? Apple. Who said Apple? Back there? Yeah, why Apple? I mean, you could argue, right? I mean, they really have done, they've done so many things, right? There's so much depth there in terms of their product lines, in terms of their innovation. Great, awesome. Okay, so we have Apple, Bombas, and GoPro. All right, now let's talk about the negative ones. Who had a negative one they want to share? Amazon. All right, why Amazon?
Because their time delivery is not what it used to be.
Okay. So they used to have a promise that they made to you, and they're not living up to that promise now, are they? Okay, good. That's a great one. Good. Others? I know you guys have had some bad experiences with some brands. Tesla, Walmart. Okay, other good ones. Okay, let's take Walmart first. Why Walmart? Who said Walmart? Okay, why Walmart? Just gross and dirty, is that what you said? It's not a very pleasant experience for the most part. Right now you're saving a little money, but maybe the experience itself might not be worth it. Okay, good. And then Tesla, someone said Tesla. The leadership. And what maybe the head of the company or what the company stands for, right, maybe impacts your perception, okay, rightly or wrongly. So absolutely. So these are good. You guys came up with some really good examples because, we got to figure out what exactly is a brand, okay? And what you guys really just said about these brands, a lot of are going already beyond what some people think, right? Because some people think of a brand, okay, it's a logo, it's a jingle, it's a name, it's a character, a tagline that identifies the provider of the products, right? Okay, it's an identifier. I know that if I go to, if I buy a certain brand of bananas and it has Chiquita on that, it's Chiquita bananas, right? It's identifying. But more importantly, has a distinct meaning. Okay, and that's what's important. It's the meaning behind what the brand says. So associations, feelings that they have, right? And I use a quote here that I love, is that a brand is the most valuable real estate in the world in the corner of someone's mind. That's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to associate your brand or business with benefits that I'm going to get from it as a customer. What are you going to deliver for me? Okay, because if I look at this, right? Who is this? We know who this is? Okay, so if I didn't, give me the first, let's do another quick little example here. First thing that comes to mind, just start yelling out. First thing that comes to mind when you see Starbucks. Expensive. Sugar, okay. Coffee. Everywhere. Chain. Airport. Trendy, good. Anything else? Lines, is that what you said? Long lines, yeah, absolutely. Okay, these are your first impressions. Right now, I do this exercise and I usually get something. You guys are maybe on the slightly more negative, but that's fine. I got to know my audience, right? So you're small business owners, and this is the mean, evil corporation, right? But if you think about it, right, what we usually see with Starbucks is you get a range, right? You get some positives of like, oh, it's sophisticated, comfortable, relaxing, it's a treat, it's a reward. But then on this other side, guess what? You have some other things that may not be so good, kind of like what I just heard, right? Maybe it's confusing, it's trendy, someone used trendy, right? It's predatory, expensive. We heard some of that, right? But that's what, if Starbucks came in here, and if I brought a marketing team from Starbucks in here and they read those, right, they might say, you know what, that's kind of what we're all about. Even the negatives are, if someone thinks we're snobby and pretentious, that's kind of what we are about, because we are doing that so that we can do these other things really well, right? And everything Starbucks does helps people to say what is on this board, because that's the brand's meaning, and it resides in the minds of its customers. So the products you offer, the messaging you say about them, your price points, where you are, where you talk to people, where you engage, the experience that they have in your store or business, or the experience they have with you on a one-to-one basis as a business-to-business kind of scenario. It all impacts their feelings of you and your brand. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to be a little more prescriptive as far as how we can control how people think, or at least how they perceive your brand to be. Because people are over and exposed to over 5,000 ad messages a day. Now, from the time you wake up in the morning, right, to all the products in your house, everything you see, you're exposed to multiple thousands of messages. And by the way, 5,000, sometimes I see 3,000, it's like, but it's a lot, okay? So the idea as far as what we're trying to do is we want to make sure is how do you make sure your small business stands out from the crowd? that it becomes a destination for people versus just, a destination that people want to go to, right? How are you trying to own things, right? So I'm going to give you a quick Coca-Cola story. And so this is something that precipitated me writing this book, Romancing the Brand, and I feel it's a pretty good analogy or metaphor on how you need to think about this, all right? So at Coke, we love to talk to our customers. We like to get them in rooms. They're called focus groups. You get people around a table. You sit around and you talk to them about soft drinks and beverages, okay? Just to kind of get their perceptions. And a woman picked up a can. We had this thing, and there was a table and probably 20 different soft drinks. It was an exercise you do where you kind of have people sort them and pick up one. And she picked up a can of Diet Coke, and she said, I drink 5 of these a day. Okay, first of all, we're like, wow, okay. But it's always at my side, she said. Now, there's people out there that do. There's some people that are big fans, okay? And she's like, it's always at my side. It's there in the good times. It's there in the bad times. And in short, it's there when, like last week, I heard about a promotion at work, and it was at my side. A month ago, I heard my aunt was sick. Was really upset about it. It was at my side. I can depend on it. And then she said something that threw us all for a loop, right? She said, I kind of think of Diet Coke kind of like it offers me the kind of support that I would expect out of a boyfriend. And we were like, what, did she just say boyfriend? And sure enough, and we were live. It was me and my ad agency and maybe our marketing research people and my brand team. And we were in the room, and we were like, she really did just say that. And so I did some more research, and sure enough, people think of brands in a relational context, okay? So they think about brands, and some brands do a really good job at this, right? Some brands, or I guess there's a range, right? Some brands maybe don't do a good job of it. It's almost like someone casual. It's like they deliver you a service. It's like your postman or something, right? I can wave and say hi, but I don't really know them. But there are other brands that if something happened to them, they went away, they changed, they broke their promise, you would feel a sense of loss. You would feel upset about that, okay? And there are some that we feel so passionately about, we think about it in terms of romance, okay? And that's the metaphor, right? Because if you think about a relationship, right, it's beneficial to both parties. It's one looking out for another. It's about making each other feel special. Good brands and good consumers have this connection to where that a consumer wants to wear that brand on their shirt. It's their call at the bar. It's the place they always go. It's the car they drive. And that's important, okay? And so what we want to do, our goal should be to get our consumers to fall in love with our brand. I love going to that restaurant. I love Chick-fil-A. I love Marriott, whatever it is. I love my new car. And if we can do that, we win. And so I like to think of it as building a relationship. And so you have to think about, where am I in my relationship with my customers? Because customers and consumers who are in love with our brands do the following. They're going to find more value in them, and they're going to pay more because there's more value there. This really fits me to a T. I'm going to this bar, or I'm going to this restaurant. They're less likely to cheat. Let me give you the relationship analogy again, right? If you are out to dinner, if you're in a relationship and you're really into the person who you're into, you are not going to notice somebody else that walks by in the hot red dress or the suit or whatever. Think of that person in the hot red dress or whatever as your competitor. They're trying to get your customers' attention. They're trying to pull them over to their business. It's a new promotion. It's something. It's a new offering. It's something that they're trying, a new message. They're trying to pull them away. But if you're into the person who you're into, you're not going to notice that. And at Coke, we had a great example of this, right? Someone goes into a restaurant and they ask for a Coke, and the waiter or waitress says, "Is Pepsi okay?" And if someone was really in love with Coke, what are they going to say? No. They're not. They're going to be like, "I'll have iced tea, I'll have water." And if you're Coke, you want them to leave immediately and go to the place next door that does serve Coke, right? So the idea is they're going to be less likely to cheat. They become advocates and evangelists. Think about when you were with someone, when you first, when you were kind of dating and really, you wanted to tell the world, right? With brands, if you have a great experience, in this day in social media and the ability to pass around and talk about things, man, you want people to become advocates and evangelists. Because if you're really in love with something, you want to tell people who you know and like that they need to experience it too. And of course, they're going to buy more from you more often. They're going to come more frequently. They're going to come to your place more often. They're going to become a regular. So we do this thing, and I don't want to necessarily through it, but every brand and every consumer, because I do want to dive into what we're going to do here, has a relationship, and a relationship has a pathway. And that pathway is, and we kind of have some steps here, that the first thing you do is you got to know your type. You got to know what you are all about as a business. What is your secret sauce? At Coke, we used to call this what makes you different, better, and special. What is it? And then knowing your type, getting back to the relationship metaphor, who's interested in that? Who is that person that I want to associate with my brand or business? That I want people to think, hey, this is the person that buys that. Then you got to meet them. First time, as your mom always used to say, you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. What's the first time that they experience you? Whether it's a message on social media, whether it's their first when they walk into the door, what's exactly their experience going to be like? Then you got to keep growing the relationship, right? We won't talk a lot about this today, but as you continue to make it mutual, deepening the connections, at some point, you might get into a relationship rut. You're going to the same, think about, right, if you've been in relationships, right, you start going to the same places, you start seeing the same people, nothing is new, nothing is different, and you take it for granted. And as brands and consumers, if we don't step up with innovation and news to keep the relationship exciting, we have the potential to eventually break up. Because that competitor comes in and offers something better. So the idea here is that there's a cycle, okay? So you need to think about where you are in that cycle with your consumer. So I want to kind of briefly go through a few of these, okay, today in the time that we have. And the first one is I'm going to flip it here because I'm going to start with the user first. But the idea of, let's first talk about knowing your type, all right? So knowing who your consumer is. Who is the person, right, that really represents my core user? The person that I want the world to see as, this is the person that shops my store, that comes to my bar, that leverages me as an architect, right? So the idea of a core user is, again, it's about perception. It's not about your whole source of volume. It is about who you want to perceive as that person, okay? So it's a subsegment of all people, of all your users, but it is someone who I really am designing my experience for. Who is that person that I am designing this product for, okay? So we talk about this in marketing a lot, is that customers have what we call points of pain, or they have needs, okay? And what our business does is it meets a need. It satisfies a point of pain, right? A point of pain can be anything from what's missing in my life, what could be done better, anything from, hey, I'm hungry and I need to eat. I'm looking to interact and engage with other people, but I'm looking for that point of pain where my brand is going to hit a home run and solve it to a T. All right? So, I worked on Powerade for many years at Coca-Cola. And we had about a 7 share when I first started. Gatorade was like 90% of the market. Okay, we all know Gatorade and Powerade if you know sports drinks, right? If I were to say who Gatorade's core user was, right? Who the Gatorade core user was, right? How would you describe that individual? How would you describe the person who Gatorade wants you to think of as the user of Gatorade? Sorry? An athlete is a start, yes. What kind of an athlete? Professional athlete. And what are they doing when they're using Gatorade? They're on the field. They are sweating. They're intense. They're in the middle of battle. They're winning. Now, that's who you see, right? That's how you see is Gatorade, right? Now, what percent do you think of Gatorade volume, the amount of Gatorade that's sold in this country, is used in that kind of situation? Less than 1.00. I mean, it is tiny. A lot of Gatorade is consumed by kids hanging out, construction workers on the side of the road, right? A hot, sweaty August day here in Atlanta. People who might have had one too many the night before. People who have a stomach bug. Right? Your doctor always said, drink some Gatorade, right? Does Gatorade want you to think of that, though, when you're thinking of Gatorade? No, they don't. Right? That's a source of volume for them, but that's not who they want you to perceive as their user. Hot, thirsty, sweaty elite athletes in the middle of intense competition, pushing their bodies to the limits. That's what the perception is of Gatorade. Not their volume, but their perception. What's the perception of your core user, right? Gatorade has a strategy that they focus in on the hot, sweaty elite athletes that then bring in other athletes. And then those bring in kids. And then those bring in others. That core user is who I'm building my brand and product for, and who I want to be associated with my being the ultimate brand fan. This is my ultimate person, my ultimate user. So let's play a little game here. Let's guess the brand by its core user, okay? Let's see if you guys can get this, all right? For families who believe in magic, imagination, and optimism, and who seek emotionally immersive, story-driven experiences that create unforgettable memories across generations. You guys are good. 1 for 1. Let's see if you can keep it up. For ambitious professionals who want to expand their opportunities by connecting with the right people, showcasing their expertise, and staying at the center of their industry's conversation. 2 for 2. Wow. This one's a little harder. We'll see if you guys can get this one. For busy, hardworking achievers who want quality coffee and breakfast that keeps them running, served quick, friendly, and without the attitude. Oh, a little mixed. I heard Duncan. I heard something over here. But yeah, Duncan, right? Okay. So, yeah, the running kind of give it away, right? So, good brands identify who the ideal person is that we are talking to, who that optimal person is, all right? So, and we don't have the time today, but I want you to do this. I want you to do this exercise when you leave today. Go back to your place of business, right? I want you thinking about who your core user is. Who am I designing this for? Who do I want people to associate my business with? Okay? And I want you to ask yourself some serious questions. Okay? I want you to think about your brand or business and articulate, like we just did, how specific is that who is that person, right? Who are they? Not just, males 24 to 39. Get a lot more descriptive than that, okay? Don't just stick with demographics. I will nail a student if they tell me a target is just a demographic, because it's much more than that, all right? So what do they need? What makes them admirable? In other words, why would others want to follow them? They are your representative customer. We're designing for them because they want to bring in others, okay? And why do they make a good representation? Okay? So these are all important things. So take this. Everyone should have a handout, right? We're going to go through a couple of these different parts of building your brand. The first thing you need to figure out is, who is my core user? All right? All right, so now we're going to, how are we doing? Okay. Now we're going to talk about knowing yourself. Okay? So we talked about who your type is, but now let's talk about knowing yourself and who you are. All right? So what are you providing to this core user? What are you going to do? All right? So I want to introduce to you something called a brand pyramid. A brand pyramid is simply a way we build up what we stand for. All right? And at the base of it is what we call our features and attributes, okay? This is product-centric or service-centric, right? This is what I offer as a product, okay? So if I take a pair of Nike tennis shoes, okay, Nike running shoes, the attributes of that would be everything from the swoosh to the Air sole, then Nike Air, to the waffle sole, to the breathable fabric. It's everything that's product-oriented, okay, that's specific to the product. What is it for your bar or your, child care center or your restaurant, right? What do you offer? What are your specifics, right? That leads us up, and whoops. Those are our product descriptors or service descriptors. That leads us up to benefits, okay? There are two types of benefits. Benefit number one is what we call functional benefits. Functional benefits are those tangible needs met by the brand. So let me do this. What do you think a need that is met by a Nike running shoe, what need does it meet? Comfort, good. What else? Support. Comfort, support, durability, cushioning my feet. All those things are what we call functional benefits, right? Curbs my hunger, right? Whatever it happens to be. That's only part of the story, though. The other part is actually, I would argue, more important when we talk about establishing relationships, and that's what we call emotional benefits. How does it make me feel? So let's take our Nike running shoe again. How does Nike running shoes, the benefits that I've just described, how does it make me feel? Any runners out here? No, y'all are too busy growing your businesses, I see, right? How does it make you feel, right? If you got a good running shoes. Pardon? May make me feel fast, cool, give me confidence. Nike's all about giving you confidence, right? Just do it. Give me that feeling. I am feeling more confident to run the Peachtree Road Race in my Nike running shoes. I mean, I'm just confident. Because I'm wearing Nike, I'm going to do better. Just do it, okay? So this is the first half. We're going to come back to the pyramid in just a second, okay? But again, this is all about, as I said earlier, what we always used to bang home is, how are we different? How are we better? How are we special? And ultimately, that's what you need to think about for your business. Different, better, and special. All right, so I'm going to show you a couple ads here, okay? And hopefully the sound works and we can do this. So let's I'm going to show you two different ads. And I want you to tell me, where on this pyramid is this focusing, okay? So if we can go ahead and play the first one, that would be great. Oops, is that, yeah. Oh, we're not getting sound. Sound? Is that the only one we have? Do we have another? Do we have the one before that, the Kindle? There should be one ahead of that. Oops, sorry. Kindle. Let's do the Kindle first. Okay.
This is the magical new iPad Air with Retina display. And this is the new Kindle Fire with an HDX display. It has nearly 1 million more pixels than the iPad Air.
This new iPad Air is astonishingly light.
The new Kindle Fire is actually 20% lighter.
Yes, but the iPad is only $4.99.
The Kindle's only $3.79.
I see.
The new Kindle Fire HDX, sharper, lighter for less.
That's Kindle. Now let's play the Apple one. There we go. Who's right here? Grandma, Grandpa!
Merry Christmas.
Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Let your heart be light. From now on, our troubles will be out of sight. Hang a shining star upon the highest bough, and have yourself a merry little Christmas now.
Notice the difference? Is there a difference between those two? Just a little, right? What's the first one all about? Functional, product attributes, right? I like to call that add pixels and price points because it's all about pixels and it's all about functionality, etc. Now, on that though, is there any emotional benefits at all? Is there a particular segment that might have any emotional benefits in that first one? Certainly it's the anti-Apple people. And who else, to try to frame it good, try to frame it maybe on a more positive framework, who else might be interested in that? What are they looking for? What is that person looking? Value, budget, great. Budget conscious, right? They want to be smart and savvy. They're a smart, savvy shopper. They want to feel like they're getting more, bigger, more bang for the buck. Yeah, these Apple people, right? As you said right there, I don't like these Apple people buy all that frou-frou stuff. I am a smart shopper and I'm going to get a bigger bang for my buck. And you even saw that, even in the voiceover, right, in the messaging, right? You saw the Apple guy was very kind of had that British kind of affected accent, right? And whereas the Kindle guy was kind of a normal accent, right? That's what they're trying to do. So there's a little emotion there, believe it or not. Now let's talk about the Apple one. Where does that land on our pyramid? All emotional, right? Now, is there any, here's the flip, I like to call that one, I like to say that one, if you think about what Apple's role is in that, right? Apple's part of the family there. That's what they're trying to get at, right? Apple is part of the family during a very meaningful time of the year, right? And you saw it, if you're like me, and I know it was maybe a little hard to see, but at the beginning you see the kid and you're like, oh, there's another teenager on his phone again. But then obviously the tie-in was that he'd been recording the whole thing and showing you, functional by the way, but not telling you, showing you what Apple does and how Apple can bring all these different things together in that phone, okay? So it's a balance, right? That good brands have the ability to marry. Now, the emphasis is different, right? Apple is very emotional, and that's what Apple stands for, and that's what we know of as Apple. Kindle has to be more functional because Kindle's just getting started. Kindle's got to prove itself to you. Apple, you already know it. So the positioning or the way these brands communicate is very different, which is actually going to get us into the next piece of your worksheet that I want you to go back and take back with your team. And I want you to think about, all right, what are we going to own here? What are we going to stand for? What is our benefit, right? And if you think about Nike, right, it empowers you to push your limits and achieve greatness. That's an example. That's got a functional is pushing your limits. Emotional is about achievement and confidence. FedEx, it's got functional and emotional too. It's all about reliability. Your package is going to get there overnight guaranteed. The functional is speed and dependability. The emotional is a peace of mind. It's going to get there. What is your brand going to own? Right? What is your brand going to own? And then, of course, you have to have what I call the support or the reasons why. I make these claims. This is where the product itself or your service or what you offer, these product and attributes, this is where they come into play. I am going to provide you this because of this. I'm going to provide you a community experience in a bar where everybody knows your name. I'm using Cheers. But because I offer camaraderie, I offer these specific events, I have poker nights or I have trivia nights or whatever, those are my product attributes. And that's why I'm able to offer you what I'm offering you. So the features and attributes, anything, it can be statistical, it can be evidential, it could be historical, it could be your ingredients or your secret sauce. It could be an expert that recommends you. But your reasons why or your support are why you're able to offer this benefit to your consumer, okay? So Tesla, we said Tesla earlier, right? Tesla gives you a high-performance, zero-emission driving without compromise. That's its benefit. Okay, that's nice, but why? What do you do to prove to me that you can make that claim? And the reason is it's got industry-leading battery technology and acceleration and software, blah, blah, software updates. This is all the tactical product stuff. So this is where the attributes play. So again, if I think about this from my perspective, is define what your brand's benefit is from a functional perspective and an emotional perspective. How are you going to ease whoever that core user is that you figured out that you want to own? They've got an issue. They've got a pain point. How are you going to meet that pain point? How are you going to ease their pain? If you've ever seen the movie Field of Dreams, right? How are you going to ease their pain? How are you going to help them functionally? How are you going to make them feel? And why? Why are you able to make that claim? That is the support point. So this is something you want to go back with your team and talk through, right? Okay, here's our brand, here's our functional benefit, here's our emotional benefit, and this is the reason why we can make that claim. Otherwise, if you don't have a good reason why, the BS meter goes off. People don't believe you, right? So what are you all about? What is the benefit your product or service is offering to your core user? And why are you able to offer it? Okay, I've got 7 minutes and I can do personality real quick, all right? So the last thing I want to talk to you all about is your brand personality. Now, this is where it gets interesting. This is where, if I think about our brand pyramid, we've bumped it up to here, right? The brand's personality. Brands, man, we think about relationships. Brands have personalities. Some are funny. Some are very serious. Some are very academic and professional, and they're like, they want to talk to you, and you're very interested in what they have to say because they're very knowledgeable. Some are kind of crazy. Right? Think about some of those brands we mentioned earlier. They have their own personalities. And you want to know how you establish a relationship and connect with your core user? Is you have a good personality that they can relate to. Okay? Because a good personality gets me into this idea of social cachet. Social cachet is what it says about me. I drive an X. I spend my Friday nights at Y. I wear this logo on my shirt. I order this beer. It says something about me. We all want to be recognized, right? So this idea of a badge value and social cachet is important. Brands can be badges that says something about the user. I want to be proud. I want my consumer to be proud that they are aligning with me. And ultimately, that leads us up to what we call the core essence, okay? So the core essence is basically the word or phrase that really represents what your brand is, okay? Disney is magic. Coca-Cola is happiness. Walmart is low prices. Volvo is safety. It's what I stand for forever and ever, amen. And that's what we're obviously building up to. Now, this kind of stuff, you can kind of change, right? This may change over time, but your core essence is that's harder to change. That's what you want to always own, okay? That's what you really are standing for. So what you want to do is you want to kind of build up this pyramid, all right? And the social cachet and the personality are where I really can make that connection with people. If I create a brand, right? One of the things at Coke we always liked to look, there was a measurement. And if you got someone to check the top box on this on a research survey, we would ultimately know that that was a very loyal consumer. And that was 5 simple words. Is a brand for me? And if someone said, yep, that's me, definitely agree with that statement. That person was a loyal consumer. And that's why we want to craft our products, our services. We want to create something that your consumer can say, they got me. They know exactly what I need. They've created something for me. Okay? So, consumers, right? You want to create the ideal brand character, right? So here's something that I like to think about. And this is a little funky. This is what you're going to say, oh gosh, he's going all marketing on me right now. But if your brand or your business was a person and you met them on the street, what would they be like? Do you know the type of car they drive? What car does your business drive? What do you want it to be perceived as? What do they do? What is their occupation? What are their hobbies? What do they like to do in their spare time? What do they look like? Young, old, male, female? Are they all buttoned up? They have a suit on? They cashed out? They in athletic attire? Where do they go on vacation? What are their political views? Are they walking around with a MAGA hat? Are they at a protest? What are they doing? What's their personality? This is important because, again, everything that I do should communicate this, right? So, again, who is my brand? If it was a person, what would it be like? And I met them. You know, and to build a relationship, right? The idea, as I mentioned earlier, this brand or this business is a brand for me. Okay? So think about it, right? You met these brands on the street, what would it be like? Right? I bet you have a different persona in your mind if you met them on the street than some more than others, right? You may have a different persona as far as you met them on the street. All right? Real quick, I'll do this really fast. I'm going to show you an example here. Okay, so can we try to play this video if it works? Not working? Okay, that's fine. Wendy's has a great Twitter account, okay? And they even focused it on the Today Show. And if you get a chance, go on Twitter or X now, whatever, and see what they do. They roast people. So Wendy's will go and roast people or other things, and it's very funny. Wendy's was an old-fashioned, out-of-touch, out-of-date brand. But even in this clip that I show, they show some of these examples of what Wendy's is doing to other people. And it's more like Stars and other companies. Like they get in a big fight with Oreos on this thing. And Savannah Guthrie, the last thing she says is, Wendy's is sassy. There's your personality right there. Wendy's is sassy. how are you going to use social media? How do you use some of the things we'll talk about later to communicate and bring out what that personality is of your brand or business and how you want to connect with people? That's a great opportunity to do that. Your goal should be that your target, that core user, should say, I want to hang out with this brand. It's a brand for me. All right? So, you want to continue, a couple other things as far as deepening the commitment. You always want old brands, right? We always think about how do brands stay young, right? You want to create that news. You want to deepen connections by creating news, staying fresh, keeping the relationship exciting. Coke is a very old brand. They don't act like it though, right? So that's a big important part as well. And finally, the idea of everything communicating. So you're going to get more into what your brand is and how to this afternoon or later kind of how I make this brand that I've created come to life. All right? And so ultimately, you're going to make it come to life in all these various ways. You have touch points that we used to say, everything communicates. Remember, they're exposed to 3,000 messages a day or 5,000 messages a day. If you're not dead set on everything being consistent in their experience with you, you lose because your message gets watered down. You have to be like a sergeant, a general, making sure that everything is precise in terms of what you're communicating. And every time the consumer or your potential user experiences your brand. So finally, the last thing I'll do is think about what that personality is, right? So that would be my last kind of thing in your little workshop there, in your little packet, right? What does it want? What's your brand's personality? What do you want your core user to say about them? What's your social cachet? This place does this. This is why I go here. This is what it says about me. And then, figure out, how am I going to do that? What's one idea that I can use to really engage with that core user, to bring that personality and those benefits to life? And then if you put it all, and then the last thing I have on there at the very back, on the last page of that, is kind of putting it all together, right? So that's kind of your holistic positioning statement, right? It's taking all these elements that I've talked about and identifying what your core user is, and ultimately creating, I think I have that in this deck, but talking about who your core user is, your benefit, your personality, and everything right there. And it's one statement that you can use, hey, as a strategic framework. Hey, we're offering this new item on our menu. Does that fit with our positioning? Hey, I want to offer this new service. Does that fit with my positioning? Hey, I'm thinking about doing this messaging campaign to this social media target. Does that fit with my messaging campaign? Does that fit with my positioning? All right, so to kind of sum up, we want to think about your consumer as a relational partner, not just a transaction. Who am I having a relationship with, right? Our goal should be, I love this brand. Because if we do that, right, it's going to take a lot of perseverance, but it can be very rewarding. And by the way, you got to be patient. That was the one frustration of many that I had working in the world, is that it's not going to happen overnight, right? You got to nurture this. You got to create it and let it grow organically, but do what you can do to accelerate that. So you want to, again, who's your core user? What's their point of pain? What's your focused benefit? What are you going to really stand for? What are you going to do for them? You want to develop a personality so much that consumer says, I want to hang out with this brand. And finally, engage. Go on a lot of dates. Going on a lot of dates will bring you more loyalty to them. Engage often. And keep the romance alive with news, innovation. Don't let it get stale as it grows over time. And no inconsistencies. Make sure that everything communicates. And with that, I think I'm done.
Okay, let's move forward to the next part of our
workshop, and we have got a terrific panel that I think can provide a lot of relevance in terms of implementing some of the things and the kinds of things we just talked about, not just from a perspective of advertising or social media, but maybe even your physical space and what tools might be available to help you do that. So we'll start off. I'll ask our wonderful panelists, starting with Tara, to introduce themselves.
Awesome, thank you. Well, good afternoon. My name is Tara Bradshaw. I work with the Georgia Municipal Association. We are the membership organization for all 536 cities in the state of Georgia. We have a nonprofit under that organization called the Georgia Cities Foundation, and I work with that group as manager of economic development and placemaking. So that was a lot of words to say that I work with cities in helping them with their economic development strategies and helping them design and create beautiful public spaces to support small businesses. I took a few minutes to prepare for this, and by a few minutes, I created a few visuals on AI. And what a time to be alive, side note. Here we are, Gen X and millennials again, trying to figure out a way to make AI adapt to our lives, another technology, so that's always fun. But it is great to help our productivity and through ideation. So I did a little bit of that yesterday, getting in preparation for this. So what is placemaking? One of the things we do is, like I said, we assist cities in helping them design and implement public spaces. That could be anything from streetscapes to sidewalks, parks, alleyways, you name it. And we do that all in an effort to create a place where visitors and our community will linger and gather. And we do that also so that we can leverage private investment and support small businesses, because we know when we do that and we create a place and we create an economy for those things to happen, that we create jobs, we further grow our local economy, and then we also can recruit and retain talent. This becomes incredibly important. Avondale Estates is a great partner in that. They are doing a great job. I came here a few years ago with the streetscape development happening, and wow, it's fantastic to see it all coming together now. So one of the things that I want to just mention today is that your physical place, your business, is such a great partner in the placemaking efforts that the City of Avondale and the DDA and the community has taken on here. But aside from that, it is also where your brand becomes real for your customers. And so, we like to talk in terms of the public realm and the private realm. And, that can be translated in a lot of different ways, from, your overall layout of your business to its physical location, but also in details, right? What does your customer experience the first 5 seconds that they're in your store, and does it align with the brand that you are communicating there? We want to make sure that your place is just as special as the place that we're creating on the public sector, on the public realm. The Cheers reference has already been made today, and I'm so thankful that I was not the one to roll it out. Customers really want to be where everyone knows their name. How special do you feel when you walk into a store or any sort of place of business and the owner knows who you are? And that is truly what customers want, and we can create that through our physical space that we occupy. And then I also just want to leave you with this. Whenever we're talking about placemaking with cities, what they're doing in terms of, and we'll use Avondale for an example, they're curating events, they're building sidewalks, building streetscapes, doing everything they can to attract an engaged audience into downtown and into the business district. And what you can do as a business owner is to tap into that, right? You're doing a little bit of that now, creating community amongst yourselves. It's always awesome to see business owners gather together in one place, but then leaning into creating that experience together for those visitors, and leaning into what the community is doing and leveraging that for longer stays of your customers and higher returns. So anyways, thank you for giving me just a moment to introduce myself, and I'm happy to entertain questions later.
Hello, I'm Jeff Doherty. I'm CEO, founder of Thunderheel, a boutique marketing advertising agency here in Avondale. I've been in the space for over 20 years at this point. I've started at Fortune 100s and Twice now, I've started at small agencies and helped them grow and then left and decided I'm not doing that again. So I'm doing it for myself this time. So I have Thunderheel. It was my daughter used to, when she was a baby, would slam her legs down on the changing table so hard, we started calling her Thunderheel. So when it was time for me to start my business, I was like, that's a stupid enough name for an ad agency. That works. So Thunderheel was born. I also have done plenty of these kind of engagements. I speak at Rutgers and NYU, adjuncting classes when I was in New York. So I'm here today to talk to you guys, try to get a little bit more technical and practical into your physical businesses. It's a little hard because you all have really different needs, right? There's the physical location, if you're doing lead gen, if you're selling products, right? Or trying to get leads. There's a huge handout that we have there that I put together for you. So you can look at some of these things. I do Tim's first, because it kind of coincides, right? I'll touch on a couple of those key ones, right? Some of the basics, like things that we all know to do, but have you done it, right? Like do a mirror test. Google your competitors. Have you done that? Have you Googled yourself, your own business? Get off your Wi-Fi, right? Don't try to do it in incognito. Is everything right? Like the basic, like that's the front door of your business to some extent with a lot of these things when you're talking local. Is the website correct? Is the phone number correct? Are your hours correct? Anything that's not right there is a bad omen for somebody that's looking for your business, right? You need to make sure that's correct and claim those things. Claim your Apple business maps and those types of things as well. And then moving into that trust scenario, right? So, Tim was talking about the brand on that side, which 100%, I'm also a little bit more practical on top of that. That's great, that's where your core is, but your customers don't care about your brand story to some extent, right? When they're looking for immediacy. You need to tell them exactly what it is you do, who you serve, and where you are, right? That's basics. It's replace the AI-driven ad copy, right? AI is great, use it for a lot of stuff, but high quality service doesn't tell you anything. What I need to know is, we do X for Y in this location, right? Like boom, boom, boom. You have to present real, because while it's, to Tim's point, it's not just a transaction, you still have to make sure the transaction happens, right? There's those things as well. And we can get more into a lot of this stuff, and then focusing on the action, right? So I kind of put this together in that findability. Can you be found? Can you provide the trust and create that action from that side? So some of the basics. Are you mobile friendly, right? Look at if you have analytics on your site or those things. I'm sure 60 to 70% of your traffic is mobile at this point, right? People aren't sitting on their desktops anymore, particularly for location-based scenarios. Do you have a click-to-call option for them to call? Is the forms, are they simple, right? The more fields you add to forms, the less your engagement happens, right? If that's the lead gen side. But then more importantly, getting back to them. It's just that simple. Are you actually getting back to the people in a timely fashion to close those loops? And then how do we track all this, right? You track the leads. What is that lead to customer rate? And then what is that cost per lead? If you don't have that necessarily, like they're coming into the physical location, have you set up like the store visit tracking kind of stuff and some of that analytics to give you what that is and what that time on site is, right? All of these are indicators as to how you're doing, or else not, you're just kind of flying blind saying, I think it's resonating, I don't know. And then, there's more we can get into on some of these things in the advertising models as well, but you need to make sure you're doing all these basics first before you start spending a bunch of money on advertising, right? But then when you are ready to spend on advertising, the question I always get is, where do I spend it, right? Well, if high intent people are actively looking for a service, that's more of your Google side, right? That's people raising their hand. I'm looking for this. If you're trying to get in front of them in that other scenario, that's going to be more of your meta advertising at this point. TikTok's a whole nother animal. We can talk about that too. But for what we're doing at this point, I would say meta is probably 90% of what you guys would be in that space for. And that's in that people not searching. But that's where you use your local reach, right? Your promotions, your events, right? Because that's more of that immediacy. And I think, there's quite a bit there, but I'm happy to talk more about any of these things. But I'll pass it off to Jen, who we work together on quite a few things, so that kind of coincides.
Yes, we actually happen to literally be neighbors. So anyway, so I'm Jennifer Joyner, and I've actually lived here in Avondale for 20 years now. Our home turns 100 years old this year, so it's been pretty exciting to be part of this neighborhood all this time. I also serve on the Downtown Development Authority. I'm in my third term, so a little over 8 years. So I've really been witness to a lot of your businesses that have either opened during that time or have been here through that entire time. And it's been really great to be part of this community. Okay, wait, I gotta learn this thing, right? Yes, okay. So real quick, I actually got into social media about 15 years ago. It's funny, the name of your company is based on your child, and same with mine. The name of my company is 5 and 2. Those were the ages of my girls when I decided to start this business. Keeps it easy when I'm trying to remember how long I've been doing it for. Prior to that, I actually had been in retail. I was an account manager for about 14 years prior to that, and traveled a whole bunch, and just had a little bit of a crossroads when one of the companies I was working with decided to close their office here in Atlanta, and I realized I needed to do something a little bit different. I didn't want to travel as much anymore, and social media had just started coming on the scene. Like Facebook for Business was a brand new concept. And I just started working for a couple local businesses. I've actually grown my business really 100% word of mouth. And it's mostly because of just learning that there was a little bit of a niche out there. There's small businesses that knew they wanted to be on social media, but you're running a small business and it's like another level of something to do and maybe needed a little help. So I really enjoyed it because it's helped me stay connected with the community. I feel like I've helped amplify, a smaller niche in this business community. And it also has given me some opportunity to work on some national brands as well, but I actually really prefer working with the local community. So some of the things we're gonna kind of talk about a little bit later is just like how to keep this simple. I get it, social media, it changes all the time. I've been doing it for 15 years and the algorithms change all the time. There's new platforms that come out. There's so much, so, how can you keep it simple? What can you do to just kind of stick to the basics? Make it manageable for you, and how to, keep, what kind of ideas could you use for content when you're stuck? And also, how to grow locally, how to really reach your customer and be relevant for your business and who you're trying to reach. Some quick, simple things. Again, we'll get into a little bit more with our Q&A, but consistency over perfection. Just be intentional, be authentic. You don't really have to be everything for everybody. Some of the great features that social media has, it's just sometimes it's a little thing. It's collaborating with maybe it's another local business that you're partnering on an event with. Using the stories feature, which is a quick way to just share something to your feed. If you don't have time to post something all the time, you can quickly put something out there. And we can talk a little more detail about what that includes. Pinned posts, that's another, if you have an event that's coming up or a product launch, a big announcement, you can use that feature to pin that exciting announcement to the top of your feed so it stays up there as long as you need it to be. Also, what matters now? Back in the day, it was how many likes do I have? Oh my God, they have so many likes. That's what made it seem like you're this great business. Back in the day, actually, a lot of those people bought those likes. And several years ago, Facebook, which, Meta is the parent company of Facebook, they do Facebook and Instagram. They kind of went through and scrubbed a lot of that stuff out. So all of those, a lot of those likes that you saw these people had tons of, you started seeing dips in it because it was bots, it wasn't real accounts. So spending more time looking at your engagement and your reach, and are people actually, doing something on the post, that's actually more important than 10,000 likes. So we'll get into that a little bit more. And then using tools, what can you use to help your time management? Again, you're running a business. You have, customers coming in, or you're placing orders. What kind of tools are out there that can help you schedule posts out, or have some auto responses to things, things that make it simple for you so you don't have to feel like you're on your account all the time and managing it. So again, we'll kind of talk about some key takeaways, but knowing your audience, Tim did a great job of launching that, and definitely knowing who are you trying to reach. Do you have to be on every single platform? You don't. So figure out, what platforms your customers are using the most, and focusing kind of, narrow and deep there. Being consistent and authentic. And like I said, just make it manageable for you. What can you do to keep it sustainable, and not feel like you have to be constantly posting? One thing I say all the time is like, one good authentic post a week is better than 7 just random, like, oh, I just got to get something up there. So again, I guess we'll talk about that in a little more detail. So, yep. Oh, you have one. Clicker. Oh, clicker.
So the way this will work is I'm going to ask each panelist just a little bit more, a question to allow them to go just a little bit broader, a little bit deeper on what they just said, and then we'll give everybody in the audience an opportunity to ask a question. So starting, Tara, with you, in the concept of physical space, well, obviously we're going to talk a lot about social media soon, but about the physical space, how can we as business owners think a little bit differently about our physical space, and once to actually establish our brand, to do the kinds of things that we've been talking about today, and once they're in, once a customer is in my business, what are some low-cost ways, things that I can do to improve the experience and make it more positive and memorable for the customer once they're there?
So one of the things that I always try to lean into in terms of your brand strategy and communicating who you are, like I said before, when someone enters your physical space, that is where your brand becomes real, especially in downtown businesses and small business districts like you have, where you are in the food industry or retail industry or some sort of service. We want to make sure, one of the biggest things that happens is there's this mismatch between what you're communicating through social media or advertising or whatever other strategies you're working on. There's a mismatch and a misalignment between that and what your physical space and your place strategy is. And so what I would encourage you to do is just think about your storefronts and your places as your first employee, right? Has everybody heard this before? Like, they are your storefront and your space, from the sidewalk all the way into the cash register or wherever they're headed, is the employee that is always there working, whether you are or not. It is constantly telling people, this is who I am, this is what I sell, and you have 5 seconds to make that good impression. And so I can't tell you how disheartening it is when I'm in a downtown and I'm following a business online and I see all these great things they're posting, and then I get in their space and I'm like, oh, they just missed the mark. And so some of those simple things are, what is the customer seeing the first 5 seconds they're there? How am I connected to the public realm, the sidewalk that's in front of me, right? Or it could be a street or whatever your physical space is. How am I connected to the public realm, and how am I drawing that customer in? And then once they get in there, are there opportunities for them to linger, to hang out? Is there seating? Is there, good lighting and music? I mean, all these things seem so simple, but when you put them together, they really can create a very powerful message for your physical space. And so, I think that place strategy is just as important as any other sort of brand strategy that you're that you're going to be talking about today. It's incredibly important for you to align what you're telling people of who you are and who you want to attract to what your physical space looks like.
Thank you. Shift over to Jennifer. You were talking a few minutes ago about that one really meaningful, authentic post a week is probably better than 7, randos. I think that we've got a real array of social media savvy here in the audience. I think there's some folks that, are brilliant
follow
posters.
you all.
Yeah. So I guess my question is on the topic, posting 101, right? What constitutes something that people will view as an authentic, in-depth post? What kinds of things should I be thinking about? And do I need to have a frequency reminder? Just sort of posting 101 from your perspective.
Yeah, so I say kind of go back to the basics. It's like who you are, what who, what, where, when, why. Like what your business is, what are you selling, or what is your service? Kind of how did I get here? Your story is always a great. I guess if you're stumped on things to talk about and things to post, you can always go back to those basics. Think of your social media feed as your website. It's actually probably one of the best search engines out there now. I mean, people, yes, they go to Google, but a lot of people are also just going over to Instagram and looking up your business. So make sure, you have up in your profile your hours, a link to your website, just the basics, like it just as if they were going to be going to your website to get information. Or your storefront, what products are you selling? And if you have the opportunity to link also to your products, that's a great, you can always go back and kind of keep reiterating those basics. I think that we're talking a little bit about AI and ChatGPT and I look at AI as for something that you guys can use for good. So yes, it gets a little crazy sometimes, but if you start putting prompts into ChatGPT, you can use that as a tool to help you schedule out posts. It's actually going to start to learn your voice and your tone. And eventually you can say to it like, hey, I've got this event coming up in 3 weeks and here's the date. This is when it's happening. Help me with, spit out 10 posts that, can help me lead up to this time frame. And then there's tools that are actually built within Meta, and there's some third-party tools that you can use to help schedule yourself out. So we'll talk a little bit more about also like time management and how, finding the right time to, carving out time for social media. It can feel overwhelming, but I think with some tools and just kind of sticking to the basics, I think is really important. Another really great thing, if you are running into, you can't figure out what to post, see what's going on in the neighborhood. Maybe you're not always posting about your business every day or every week. If there's a local event happening, tag on to that. Use the Explore Avondale, the city's websites, their feeds, tag them so that they can share what you're posting as well. Those are also great ways to collaborate with different businesses out there. And it helps the overall, this like kind of behind the scenes algorithm that is constantly changing with social media. But if you're kind of bouncing off each other and sharing ideas, I really think that also helps with your organic reach and overall engagement. One last other little quick tip is with Instagram, there is the stories feature, which again, you can take someone else's post and share it to your story really with just a click of a button. And that is going to also just help the overall engagement on your page. It's going to help people see what you're sharing. It's just another kind of quick way to get something out there without having to spend too much time if you're stuck on what to post.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Jeff, a couple of the things that we hear routinely from our stakeholders, our businesses, is they don't have a lot of time. Their time and energy go into trying to run and build their businesses. And we referenced it earlier, it wasn't a real robust January and February from a revenue standpoint across the board. So I don't know that anybody is just dripping in extra budget right now. What are some, simple steps that a business can take that maybe doesn't take a whole lot of time or a big investment to try to start a program to gain more customers?
It's a great question because, we all have limited time and budget on that side, right? I go back to one of the things I was saying is own your front door, right? Make sure that your Google business profile is up to date and that you are keeping it up to date, right? Because there's nothing worse than it not being accurate. Holiday hours, right? Are you open? Updating those photos that are there, right? Now, people can post on your behalf, they can tag places, but you update the photos on there as well to keep it current. Because have you ever gone to look up a restaurant and you pull up the map and then you pull up the photos and they're from 6 years ago and you're like, do they care about their business? Is this still what it looks like? I'm trying to get what's a vibe check? I need a vibe check of this place before I go in there, right? So keep those things updated. That's simple, right? Phone numbers and those things. And then as far as getting into the money, right, from there, I see a lot of these things as deciding you're gonna do some advertising, be it on Google or Meta or anywhere, not having a goal and just kind of, I'm just gonna put this, my customers can be anyone, so I'm gonna put it out to everyone. That's not helpful, and you need to also measure those things. So what are you getting for your dollars? If it's not measurable, it's not actionable, right? You can't figure that, get to that next part. And I also see a lot of small business owners fall into the trap. Are you all, I assume at least 70% of you are iPhone users? Yeah. Don't advertise on Instagram from your iPhone. Apple takes a 30% cut through the Play Store or through the App Store. You have to go to your computer if you're gonna do advertising on that space to save that money, right? Every penny counts. So,
but their ad made me cry.
Yeah, because they have a big budget agency, because you paid for that. So keep it local, make sure it's actionable, right? You don't need a lot of money. I mean, you can do, if you're gonna put money on something, once you have those basics done, you have your GMB, you have your Apple Place. I talk about Apple Business Connect as well. That one's important if you do email marketing as well, because you claim that, then you can brand it. So on your iPhone, when you get your emails from those people, they have the logo next to those emails. That's how you get there, right? So it adds that additional layer of branding to you as well, that consistent message. Once those things are good, then you can do a little advertising. You can, like I said, if it's people searching for something that you offer direct, Google might be a good spot for it, very tight, direct. If it's, restaurant, kind of retail location kind of stuff, and you're trying to get that pull audience on that side, focus your audience, right? Keep your locations there. More importantly, get rid of the stuff you don't want, right? And it doesn't have to be a lot of money, right? We can get into a lot of the details about creative on that side and content, but I mean, I'm talking 10 bucks a day, maybe, right? You could kind of get quite a bit of learnings and start making actionable stuff. And I would say even from that side, if you're really looking at closing that gap, focus on the remarketing aspect first, right? Google Analytics is free. A lot of these things have tools that are free. So have you pixeled your website or your, and your socials on that stuff to draw in that audience, to know how many people you're hitting, and then you create a funnel from that, right? So they visited the site, they visited a certain page, they didn't convert. Okay, I want to show an ad to that person that got all the way through there but didn't convert, to show them maybe the next value proposition, right? What is my USP? Why should they convert? Or if they've done business with you before, you need to re-engage that, hey, I have a special, I have a promotion, right? So you want to re-engage with that. That's not necessarily something you'd put out to everybody, but you can do those things very inexpensively, and it's measurable, right? And then as it gets more touch points, it raises it actually becomes cheaper to continue to do it, right? Because people are engaging with it. That's what we say. In the Facebook world, the average person scrolls the length of the Statue of Liberty every day on their phone. 302 feet with your, so if you're investing, look for hand surgeons, because everybody's gonna need one. But you have to, so you're competing against people that aren't your competitors, because they're all, it's all the same people. So you have to have a tighter target, focus your message, and make sure it's actionable. If that helps.
Thank you. Great answers all. So what questions do you have? Let's open it up and see if there's anything specific that anybody in the audience would like to talk about. Yes. Did everybody hear the question? It was about, are there certain words or key phrases that the algorithms look for? Is there anything we should, really try to make sure is there or try to avoid? Is that effectively?
So actually, we probably both.
That's a great question,
answer
by the way.
this
Thank you.
question a little bit because, we could share the mic. But so Google does index what you're putting out there. And so, the more you're using keywords and phrases, it does start kind of picking up. And that's where it kind of then filters into more of Jeff's world of like search engine optimization and things like that. In terms of social media and what you're posting, I would say, I would just think about the buzzwords that work best for your business. So yes, if you're having an event, you might want to include a call to action, register here, or, if it's a sale that you have coming up, talk about, percentage off, buy one, get one free. I would think that maybe you could speak a little bit more to how it in terms of like searching so that people find you more. Is that what you're asking for?
Algorithmic preference based on terminology.
Right. Yeah, and that's where, like I talked a little earlier, like the algorithms, they do change all the time, and it is, it can be very frustrating to how to keep up with those. That's where you might want to consider doing some boosting and some paid advertising if you're really trying to get a specific message out there. I know right now, one of the new kind of tips that I'm hearing is to, and you can't really do this in Instagram because you can't put a live link into your comment section, but if it's LinkedIn or Facebook, a lot of people now are recommending to put your link actually into your first comment. So so like if you're having, here's on our event, it's coming up, blah, 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 register to link in the, look in the comments to link. And kind of the theory behind that is it's keeping your customer on that post just a little bit longer. They're hanging out, the hang time on that post is just a little bit longer. So, then it's giving them an action. So as I was saying before, a little bit about how likes aren't as important, but engagement is huge. Well, that, just them going down and reading that comment and then clicking on it to take them somewhere is more engagement. So it actually is helping just the overall, algorithm to kick up in your favor. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's like a list of words that are going to trigger the algorithm to show it more. But like she was saying, it's that engagement, right? So you see it all the time. Link in comments, or, you can also, on the Instagram world, link in bio. You can have, I think, 3 links in your bio. So you have your main website, and then you can have one that rotates out, right? It's because it's that engagement. People click on it to they then view your profile to get to that link, right? So that post or whatever now has some engagement behind it. It's the same thing you see with other people that are doing lead gen. They're like, comment Sisyphus and I'll send you what, blah, blah, blah. It's to increase that engagement, right? And then it's an AI autoresponder that'll automatically DM you stuff. It's a way to get engagement on that side. But to go back to the other side, talking about the algorithm as well, we did mention since June or July of last year, Google is indexing Instagram as well. So there is a strategy there to, every once in a while, have a very robust post that talks about your particular business. You can pin this, right? But it doesn't read the image, right, as well. So have some text on there and post it, because that will get picked up in the Google overall algorithm. Which, side note, 3 days ago, a new Google Core algorithm just started launching out to everybody, so enjoy. They changed the algorithm, it'll be fun. My team's loving it.
Yes. Did everybody hear that? Thank you, Morgan. Great question.
Yes. Somewhat. When you talk the search engine optimization stuff, yes, most people think Google. About 50% of the searches are now like people are using social for a search engine. I don't know how much content you guys have, but YouTube is the second largest search engine. People are on there searching for things as well. If you have video content about your business and what you do, right? That's a very important place. But yeah, it's gotten better. It's not so much hashtag, but we've been conditioned to still search in a hashtag world. So users of a certain age group are still focusing more in that space, right? As we get to more almost voice to search kind of stuff in that AI enhanced search world. So hashtags, still viable, still important, but don't put 17 hashtags on your post, right? Keep it to your core. Yeah, it's more text, and it can read your images, so text on the images is better, right? There used to be a rule in Meta in that world that 20%, you could only have 20% text in your images, and the AI can read a lot more of that, but you can augment that with the text. I always advocate for a lot, some more text on those things, because if you're posting in like Reels or things like that, or stories, like, they're not seeing it. Stories go away, but Reels will stay. But nobody's reading that stuff that much, but it is findable in that search world when somebody actually does search for something nearby. That's my take on it.
Yeah, well, and again, yes, things continue to change because now with Instagram Reels, I think they're actually limiting you to 5 hashtags, which is, it used to be you would see some of these posts that had 30 hashtags. So my answer to that, I agree, hashtags are still relevant and important. What I usually try to do is pick kind of a broad hashtag. So maybe, it's just, hashtag, maybe it's like, Christmas Day or whatever, something that everybody's using. And then try to do some really kind of hyper local, really like authentic to your business. So like, croissant release or whatever, like something that really, have a variety of hashtags is what I would say, is do like 1 or 2 that are kind of broad reaching for everyone, and then a couple that really are specific to your business and potentially like, like hashtag Avondale Estates, for instance, something very local.
Eric, you had a question?
Visiting Avondale Estates, what's the top 5 restaurants? Or, I need this done, people are looking for solutions. How is AI pulling that information? And is there a way to get your business more recognized on that platform?
That's a good one.
She says that's a good question as she hands the microphone to Jeff.
That's a sneaky one.
We all look to Jeff.
Great move.
It is a good question, and it comes up constantly, right? It's what everybody's talking about right now. But at the end of the day, A lot of the AI stuff is still doing some of the SEO stuff that we have been doing. There's just a little bit more technical implementation that should go behind it. Now, when I say that, I don't mean you guys need to be programmers or anything of that nature, right? There's some simple things. On your website, do you have an FAQ section, right? FAQs, AI loves that stuff. It loves listicles and FAQs. Like you were just saying, what are the top 5 things to do? It's gonna try to find articles that list the top 5 things to do. So your business can list the top 5 things to do in Avondale. You know, go get a croissant and then go get some bacon and then buy a coffee and head to garage door, right? Like you can tell it and help that out. But more importantly, those FAQs about your own business, right? And you do it in a way, and I can get into details about actual schema and these things, these like technical jargon on the back end. AI can help you write that, right? If you have access to your website, like you can say, I want to put these FAQs up there, write the schema for me, and it'll tell you what to do and exactly where to put it, right? You don't need me. If you'd like to, I'm here to do that. Talk to me or Lachey, we're happy to do it for you. But the schema is telling the search engines and the AI what it is, right? So it's not trying to read the site and understand what it is. You're literally telling it, hey, this is for you, search engine AI, this is what this is about, this is how it's structured. So you put it in order of importance and the authenticity and the authority on that side and what the links to that side. So those things are what help, right? AI pulls a lot from third-party sources, so that's why we talk heavily about your GMB and getting reviews, right? Those are very important in that AI side because it ranks those. And then that technical back end where you're telling it. From a restaurant perspective, do you just have a picture of your menu? Can it read that properly? Maybe there's a way to have some back end of what those items are on your menu as well, right? That technical back end to tell them, hey, this change, right? That helps that SEO and it also helps the AI side. I hope that slightly answers your question. Yeah.
Shannon.
Sure. We talk in terms of real estate, and the best places to be in the state of Georgia right now are downtowns, that term beachfront property. Downtowns are kind of beachfront property right now in terms of where to locate your small business. And a lot of that circles around the fact that you have a ton of investment, public investment going into those spaces. One of the things that we try to do is work with the cities and the small business owners to help them understand that the magic that happens between those two realms, right, where the public realm meets the private realm, can be truly powerful. We see more economic development and more private investment in our downtowns than we do in manufacturing right now. Across the state. And we have small South Georgia towns turning out millions of dollars a year in private investment through exactly what you're doing, small businesses, because the cities have decided to invest in those, excuse me, y'all, allergies. The cities have decided to invest in those spaces. Some of the great things that we see happening is when a business decides to locate downtown, a successful small business in a downtown will realize that space is a great leveraging point for them, right? How can I work with the business next door and collaborate? How can I tap in and be part of this community? And honestly, because of the public investment into downtown, you not only should have a desire as a business owner, but it's almost like you have a responsibility, right? Do any of you feel that way? And I find this across the state, that if I have a business owner opening in downtown, they almost feel responsible for helping to keep that up. Because at the end of the day, small businesses are the reason people are coming down there. We can make those sidewalks as pretty as they can be, but they're coming down there to see you guys, and they're coming back because of you guys. So we want to make sure that you have every opportunity to leverage the audience we're bringing to you. Some of the practical ways, when your downtown development authority or your Main Street program is hosting an event, figure out a way that you can align your operating hours with that, right? How can you get your audience to feed into that event? And then more importantly, how can you get that audience that the city's bringing to your doorstep, right? And so some of the most successful partnerships we see are when owners of businesses collaborate with your DDA staff and say, hey, I'm going to extend my store hours. It's something that small, just, as a visitor to those events that are happening, that speaks a lot to me about how much you value your community if you say, hey, I'm going to stay open for an hour or two later today. The other part of just physical space in downtowns that we see that's really successful is when you really lean into your brand and make your physical space a representation of that, right? So you saw the storefront I showed, just kind of plain Jane versus the storefront that's got the lights and the, just very attractive qualities. I'm sure that aligns well with their restaurant. I was in Rome, Georgia last week, and one of the coolest stores is a place called Spacey K's. You can check her out. She has gone viral on TikTok for she waged a war against Chinese suppliers and said, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm done fighting for every dollar I'm earning. I'm just going to design my own clothing. And she went viral, and she's got like this punk, edgy line that she creates. But what she has done for downtown Rome is her space speaks her brand. It is this electric blue storefront. She's got edgy art out on the sidewalk. When you walk by that space, you know who Spacey K is, and you know that she is happy to be a part of that downtown. And so I really think leaning into how you can capture that audience that the community is bringing right to your doorfront and really get involved from a community standpoint. I hope that helps answer the question. Yes. Yeah, well, what you see is communities that have less resources are, number one, being more tenacious with what they have, right? So they're figuring out ways to make their dollars go farther and to phase it out. That's one of the things that we do at Georgia Cities Foundation is help cities plan for these investments. So what you're seeing Avondale do in 5 years, we're helping cities figure out how to do it in 10 to 20 years. The other thing that they're doing is reprioritizing where they're spending their money, and it is taking some convincing. I don't know if you're familiar with Homerville, Georgia. Anybody know Homerville? It's down next to Florida. I mean, listen, if little old Homerville, they are rebuilding their town. They've got 2,000 people, I think, is their population, and as a community, they have decided we are not going to waste away anymore. We're going to take everything we have. If it takes us 20 years to do it, we know that the only way and it's about survival. Your town is not going to survive if we don't start investing in ourselves. And luckily, Avondale has the resources. So I would say it's not necessarily population. There's got to be this. Yeah. Now that is a challenge for sure. What we find is the biggest investors in our downtowns are our locals. It's people, it's just telling the story of the community, helping the community understand that if we build this, business will come, investors will come. And a lot of times, incremental growth in a community usually happens from the guy that lives next door. He just happens to take an interest in the community. He sees what the city is doing. And so from a city's perspective, and that's one of the things that we talk about a lot, is diversifying our economic development strategies. We can't just wait for the manufacturing company to come in and, save the day with all of these 400 jobs. That's just not going to happen for us anymore. And so how can we support you guys as investors in our community to help with incremental development and get to where we want to be?
I think we're at a great point. We're at time. I want to be very respectful of your time. And just as chair of the DDA, I cannot tell you how grateful I am that you would invest your time in our community by coming for this. It's a big chunk of time. Thank you very much. Please thank our panelists. I think they did a great job. And I'm sure if you got a few more questions, they'll stick around a little bit. As a final note, I do want to remind everybody that in this very room, tomorrow evening is the State of the City. Please, if you can come, there'll be a lot of great information. We'll have a lot of fun. Thank you for coming. Have a great day.